Welcome back to the Top Shelf Literary Editions. This is episode 93. As you know, we're going through my top 10 favorite films to cap off this literary edition series, culminating at episode 100, Rating Alone for 1,000 Miles, or which version of Three Kingdoms to get. The subtitle changes every so often, but it's going to be a very long form video. I hope you check that out. I'll go through a synopsis of it. I'll go through a brief history of the versions of writings. Then I'll go through all the editions of Three Kingdoms that I own, and I'll recommend which ones. I'll give different recommendations to every edition. But I hope it's something that you're interested in interested in viewing. My name is Ernest Whiteman III. I'm a Northern Ramapo filmmaker, artist, writer, and media educator, and we're taking a look at the top shelf of my book collection today, and we're taking a look at the number 8 book. My number 8 book on my all-time favorite book list is Invisible Natives, Myth and Identity in the American Western by Armando José Prats. This is a performing arts film history and criticism book. I forget how I first encountered this book. I think I've seen it mentioned a few times in when I was talking about the film course, and I started to look up books that were discussed representations of Native Americans explicitly. And I teach a COM 363 Native Americans in Media course at the University of Wisconsin Parkside in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And I knew this was the book I wanted to use as the textbook. Dang it, I cannot remember how I first encountered this book. But I started reading it on my own before I even taught the course. And I still have that first edition laying around. The first copy I got of it. It's back here. As you can see, it's very weathered. The cover is taped. And if you go through it, there's a lot of notes and highlights, because this has really informed me on Native Americans in media and the representation therein. There's a lot of other strong books by Native authors. I think Thomas King's The Inconvenient Indian and Philip J. Deloria's Indians in Unexpected Places, which is the other book I use for my course, are good examples of talking about Native American representations and other things. But this one presented sort of an unbiased perspective. A.J. Prats is neither a U.S. citizen or neither is he Native American. He's actually born and raised in Cuba, where he digested a lot of American Western films. And as he grew to love them, but as he entered his academia career, realized that the depictions of Native Americans in these films were not accurate or true, and he did a really good study of them. And he talks about things such as space of the same and the concept of revisionism, where even though we get revisionist Westerns these days, natives are never allowed to do the revision. The story will always use the native to sort of confer the authority of the non-native hero. And another thing these revisionist Westerns do is the destruction of native people and culture is inevitable and can never be reversed. So despite their I dare say liberal leanings of many revisionist Westerns, you know, the destruction and the death of the native is still most important to those Westerns. And it was A.J. José Prats that sort of really opened my eyes to that and made me realize how far Native American directors really need to go if they're if they want to get accurate depictions without really appropriating their own cultures, without having to paste the beads and feathers and give up a cultural cost for their humanity, which I see is probably the greatest problem in Native arts and film right now. And thanks to A.J. Prats, I've come to these realizations about Native representations of in media is a far deeper issue and far-ranging issue than first seen at first sight, because how the media informs a representation has all these tendrils into the political realm, the environmental realm. As I was saying before the battery died, how a representation sort of feeds people's ideology about a people actually has impact on all these different arenas. It has tendrils that reach into the political arena, the economic arena, the environmental arena, the social arena, even the educational and entertainment arenas, because of how people were informed about Native Americans almost from the beginning of the film industry, has impacts for generations and generations. And when people are sort of faced with this fact, they become very aggressive towards the person that's pointing this out. You'll see people, Native people, when they sort of step up to say, hey, this is a problem in Indian country or Native country, there's always this almost near violent pushback of, you guys were defeated, you were extinct, and all comes from being brainwashed by American Westerns, to put it bluntly. That's why when things like the Standing Rock protests happen, or the currently happening Line 3 protests that are happening right now, everybody wants to defeat the natives. Like when the indigenous Hawaiians wanted to block something that was going to mar their sacred lands, suddenly they became these people to defeat because of Western expansionist ideas and the idea of the myth of conquest that Prats so eloquently defines. So this has become, something that not only do I read for the course, but I actually break out in between and start to read from the start again, just to refresh my own thoughts and ideologies on this, the idea of Native American representation in media. And that's why I purchased the edition. That's what he talks a lot about in this book. And I would give this a high glowing review. I think it should be essential reading to even Native artists out there, so they can see the pitfalls and the traps that they themselves sort of create when it comes to Native American representation in media. So Armando José Prats' Invisible Natives, Myth and Identity in the American West sits at number 7. Actually, I'm wrong. It sits at number 8 on my top 10 favorite books of all times. And it's on the top shelf for today. Coming up next in episode 94 is our number 7 book, American Indian Stories. Hope you join me then. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.